Welcome, everyone, to Manifesting with Meg, Conversations with Extraordinary People. This is episode 137 in the month of Empowered Through Service. I have the beautiful and wonderful Shana Belyeu here to speak with all of us today. It's the year of our Live, Laugh, Love, and Play. She is the founder of Speakonsuicide, so I just want to put that out there that it might have some element of an emotional connotation, but I'm going to say it's all with the wonderful intent to bring everyone into our circle of love. It's time to conduct an examination of your life, which is today's theme. And I want to introduce to you Shana Belyeu. She's the founder of Speakonsuicide. She began her grief journey after the tragic loss of her 15-year-old son, Adam, to suicide. She's driven by a promise to Adam that her story didn't end with his death. She has dedicated herself to sharing his life, the impact of his loss, and her journey to mental wellness. Through her advocacy, she aims to spark open conversations around suicide and mental health, breaking the silence that often surrounds these issues. Shana's efforts are making a difference in reducing the stigma, and she believes that together we can break the silence. So here we are, Shana. Welcome to Manifesting with Meg. I'm so honored to have you here. It's a privilege for me, at least, for sure.
Thank you so much, Meg. It is more than a privilege. It's an honor to be here. And I'm so happy that you invited me and that we could spend this time together.
You know, it's very personal to me today because I know you very well. And I also knew your son, Adam. And I'd like to start off with like something beautiful because I happen to love beautiful things. And it's a picture of our children together at, I think may have been one of the first Halloweens, obviously one that they actually showed up with their favorite costumes. And it's a story where I want to, the story is about you today, but it's also about you and your son, Adam. They were saying goodbye and they're like good friends. It was Adam and it's Ava, which is Adam and Eve, kind of cute little synchronicity of the names, right? So clearly we said goodbye. And then I will give it over to Shana as to what happened next.
Okay, so Adam's about a year older than Ava. And I said, all right, Adam, it's time to go. Say goodbye to Ava. Took his face and her face in his hands, brought her into him and gave her a kiss. And it was their first kiss and it was magical.
First kiss of Adam and Ava. I love it. Anyway, that really is your son because they're huggers. They were huggers and they were like playing and they were having a great time together. And it was just the most wonderfully spontaneous, amazing thing that he would do something like that because he embodied love. And with that, I want to start with our theme today. Thank you so much for sharing that, Shana. It is conduct an examination of your life. And the quote today is, character contributes to beauty. It fortifies a woman as her youth fades. A mode of conduct, a standard of courage, discipline, fortitude, and integrity can do a great deal to make a woman beautiful. Jacqueline Bisset, she's a British actress, but this quote really does embody you, Shana. The whole idea, I have hope and that makes me brave. That really is the embodiment of your strength and how you show up in this world in the whole, it's not okay all the time as well. So I want to make sure that that's clear. We all have questions as to why things happen and why things show up the way they do. And as we go through life, we're fortified by the memories as well as those questions so that we can see each day through. I do want to turn it on to you right now because the magical key to bless is answer the questions above. What are those questions for you? And set out in the next phase of your journey. Tell us a little bit about yourself as well as you tell us and you share us this examination of your journey.
Well, you will say as my friend and as a wonderful friend that I've always been extraordinary. Mm-hmm. And other people will say that, but I saw my life as pretty ordinary. Nothing unbelievably amazing, but I was, just living my life. When I was married a long time ago, I couldn't get pregnant. And to make a long story on the shorter side, we tried 3 rounds of in vitro and ended up doing an international adoption. And we adopted Adam from Kazakhstan, which I didn't even know where it was, between Russia and China. And So Adam, I have always said, is the most deliberate thing I've ever done. And he was probably the first extraordinary thing in my life. And he really was. You mentioned Adamtude. And that phrase was coined, I don't know, when he was about 9 or 10. And he didn't have attitude. He had Adamtude. He was always just so positive and loving and happy and smart and quick-witted. And he could carry on conversations with adults when he was a kid, always. So Adam was the most extraordinary thing in my life. And I loved being a mom more than absolutely anything else. And I always told him, I said, it's my favorite thing that I'm your mom. And I wouldn't be anything, if I wasn't your mom. And Adam was a typical teenager. He had his struggles, and we can get into that, but I don't want to just tell the whole story all at once. Adam had his struggles, physical and emotional. But in terms of emotional, he had anxiety when he was in 6th grade, and then we got him into counseling, and he worked his way through it, and it didn't go away. And, part of the story is mental health and mental illness. And, they don't go away. You learn to live with them. You learn to deal with them. You learn to make them part of your life.
Yeah.
And I thought that he had made it part of his, and, we talked things through. And so when November 15th last year, so almost a year ago, Adam took his life. And that is when my life changed, as much, if not more so, as when I became his mom. And so everything I've done since then is as a result of that. Like, my entire being and every ounce of my fiber just changed. And I know that your being is about hope and magic and bliss. And, I lost hope for a while, no question about it. And I didn't know what my life was about or why it was anymore, because he was my everything. But I've gone on, and I've moved forward. You don't move on, you move forward. And I've done a lot of healing and therapy in many different ways. And here I am.
Here you are. Thank God, here you are. I know that in many ways, I think that when we share from the vulnerability of our wound, our brokenness, or whatever the heck you want to call it, because I don't have words.
Brokenness.
Broken. Good. Okay. For my brokenness.
I'm still broken. It's like Humpty Dumpty. You can put the pieces back. They'll never be as strong. They'll never be the same. It'll be different, but it'll be, it'll be.
But let me ask you this, and it's interesting because, like, examining a life, there's so much joy, because I want to share this because I think, because we're talking about him, I think it's important for people to see him. And this was the day. You tell me a little bit about this, because it's a picture of you holding this beautiful baby. And
that was the day he came home.
That's the day he
came
home.
So I said we adopted him from Kazakhstan, and that was 3 days before his first birthday. It was February 26, 2009.
Wow.
And it was 3 days. And that was when after we picked him up from the airport, because we had an escort bring him from Kazakhstan to the United States. And we picked him up from the airport, and we came home, and a friend was over trying to document things for us, kind of out of the way. And I took Adam out of the car seat and picked him up, and he snapped that picture among many. But
it's just pure bliss. That's pure bliss. And to know that, we have other moments that come from that opportunity that you took a step toward bringing this beautiful child home. And then what follows is more bliss, more joy, more Adamtude, for sure. Tell me about this.
Adam and I loved to have fun together, and that's kind of what we did best. And he was just pure happiness. And that is an embodiment of his attitude, not his attitude.
Yeah.
So when he took a bath, I would, take the soap and make his hair go straight up and put it in like a high mohawk and take the ends out and the side and just make him look silly. And he wanted me to show him what that looked like.
Oh my God.
So I did it after the bath at the sink. And he got to look in the mirror and see what he looked like. And then that was just the pure joy on his face.
Wow.
As I was able to capture that moment afterwards.
And then we have, talk about this too, because Adam had cerebral palsy, and it was not a debilitating case where he could not move, but he was a man on a mission. He was a young little baby on a mission. Tell me about this as well. For those that are able to see the picture or not, he's got his walker, but he's also playing in the water with the walker, and literally the water is up to past his ankle. So
this picture, one of my favorites, clearly. I forget how old he was, but if he was in his walker, he was probably about 4. And he had cerebral palsy. He could walk with assistance when he was younger. Eventually he had surgeries and he was able to walk on his own. But at this point, he needed his walker to keep him stable. So I remember my mom and I were out somewhere at a park, and it was one of those places where the water fountains come up from the ground and the kids can go play in it. And my mom looked at me and she said, "What are you going to do? Like, he's got his shoes with his braces on. Takes me 5 minutes to take them off. It takes me 10 minutes to put them back on. He's got the walker." I said, "I don't care. It'll dry." Yeah. So I said, go play in the water. And he did. And nothing stopped him. And nothing ever stopped him. What he wanted to do. It may have taken him a little longer. He may have done it in a little bit of a different way. But again, that was his attitude. Yeah. And that was my approach to him. I treated him just like any other kid, and he saw himself, especially when he was younger, as any other kid. That changed when he became a teenager. Yeah. But at that age, I don't care. We went to the beach. My parents had a house in the Poconos, and there was a lake with a beach. Take the walker in the lake, roll it around on the sand. It all gets washed off. If not, I'll get another one. And, if it rusts, but never did. So, nothing stopped him. He was like any other kid, as much as we could do it.
Amazing. And then, of course, like any other kid playing flag football. I mean, it was, you poured a lot of love into him, as well as he poured, obviously, a lot of love back into you. But this kid believed he could do anything.
He did. And this was when he was 10 years old. He played flag football with the I-9 groups. And it was the most special thing that we pretty much ever did for him. So he had his first surgery before kindergarten. So, he had done martial arts for a number of years after his surgery, and he loved Madden NFL, and he loved watching football. So we said, you know what, let's get him into I-9 football. And we signed him up and I gave it to him for his birthday. And the kids embraced him. The coach embraced him. This was the first time that Adam did something where we didn't tell the coach ahead of time that Adam was any different.
Oh, wow.
I was actually out of the country when Adam went for his first practice for I-9. And his dad took him, and we decided he would say nothing. We'd answer any questions. If it became an issue, we'd talk about it, but we said nothing. And a couple weeks in, the coach said to me after a game one day, I know clearly something's different about Adam, but what is it?
Yeah.
And I told him, and he's like, okay. I said, but clearly he wants to be just like everybody else. And that team on I-9 was so special that the coach's son was on the team. And halfway through the season, the coach's son said to his dad, I want to create a play where Adam can score. I want to create a play around Adam.
Wow.
And they did. And it was for an extra point after a touchdown.
Yeah.
And the coach ran around the field screaming in happiness and joy. I mean, after Adam played football, the parents on the other team and the coaches on the other teams would come up to me and tell me how amazing Adam was. And it was incredible. So
you gave him literally opportunities to fly. And this next picture.
So this next picture, this was within a couple months of when he died. After his second surgery, which was before 9th grade, so he was 14. We took him to Houston for a second surgery, more of a procedure where his tendons in his legs got lengthened so he could run and walk more like anybody else. And about 6 months after his surgery, his physical therapist, and he'd been in physical therapy since he was about 15 months old. Mm-hmm. He came home just before he was a year old, and within a couple months we had him in physical, at that point occupational and speech therapy. But he was in physical therapy until he was almost 15. And 6 months after the surgery, his physical therapist, Nancy, said to me, I can't do anything else for him. He's come as far as he can come in physical therapy. I said, so what do you think about me transferring him to a personal trainer? And she said, I think that's a great idea, but you just need to make sure that they know, that form is really important and what his, limitations are and about the cerebral palsy. So his personal trainer, Joe, knew how it affected his body and understood it. And Adam worked with Joe, and I mean, talk about bliss. That was Adam's happy place. So this picture, Adam was finally able with Joe to work on his upper body strength as in addition to just his lower body. Yeah. And he would do this on the front table. And this was months in the making, this picture. And he would try and be able to balance and work on his core. And first he couldn't get his legs very high, and then he got him a little higher, and then he got him a little straighter. And this was his glory. This was his pride and joy in what he could do. Yeah. And I actually showed this to his trainer. It ended up being a couple weeks or about a month before Adam died. And he was flabbergasted. Yeah. I mean,
then we have this great picture of all of you running in what, a 5K, right? It was a 5K.
Yeah. So that was a 5K for Feeding South Florida. That was spring of 2015, because it was after his surgery. And so
just gonna shout out that Ed is in that picture.
No, I'm getting there. I'm getting there.
Shout out today.
So that picture, Adam is in the orange. I am close next to him. Ed is close next to me. My mom, who was 79 at the time, you can't quite see, she's behind us, but so we had 3 generations doing that 5K. Amazing. And I'll give a shout out to Ed, who is now my fiance. That just happened. So that was all 4 of us running a 5K for Feeding South Florida. And that was the 3 of us running to the end all together.
That's beautiful. I'm about conducting an examination of your life. And, right there and then we see your life with your beautiful son. And now Ed as well is a part of that, as well as your mother and all the people who love and hold you dear. But, and I always say and because November 15th happened and your life changed, and you spoke to that already. And I really want to shine a light on the fact that, and we see Sadie running around in the back, is her wonderful, wonderful dog/daughter. So yes, Sadie is a huge part of Shana's life now. She'll speak to that hopefully as well. But how is this healing journey a part of your examination of your life? Because a lot of people are listening and they're thinking, first of all, probably sending you so much love, because I am. How do you do this?
Part of me says I have absolutely no idea.
That's honest.
Ed has been a huge part of this. He has not left my side since this happened. In fact, when my mom is up in Philadelphia, so we told her the next day that Adam had died and what had happened. And here's Sadie. There she is.
Yeah.
And she said, you know, oh my God, are you alone? And I said, no, Ed's here. He's not leaving. Mm-hmm. And she said, never? Apparently not. He never left. So anyway, but to be more serious, because it is very serious. I don't know how I got through those first days, hours, weeks, months. I was in shock for a long time. And so you just kind of move forward and do what you need to do. And a lot of people use a lot of different ways to get through or deal with trauma and tragedy and grief. And I did a lot of things. I journaled, I screamed, I listened to music, I didn't listen to music. I did a lot of things. But the four things that really have stuck with me and have really been instrumental in getting me to where I am was, number one, I knew that there was no way I was going to be able to do anything alone. Anything. So, I mean, and that was from, you know, getting to the hospital after I got the call that Adam had shot himself. And my old next door neighbors called me and said, you know, do you want us to meet you at the hospital? Because Ed at that time was about 2 hours away. And I said, yes. So I knew I couldn't even do that alone. So I have wonderful, amazing friends who showed up for me and who still show up for me, you being one of them. And so for the first time in my life, I learned to ask for and accept help. And I still ask for help and I still accept it.
I want to stop you just for a second because that's very powerful, this point. And I think that everyone needs to really hear it.
Part of it was that Ed came that night and pretty much didn't leave. And so I always had someone who was here for me in the most wonderful way. I would cry a lot. I still cry at night, sometimes during the day, but I cried a lot. And he would say to me, I hate seeing you in so much pain. And after a day or two of that, I looked at him and I said, tough. I'm in pain. I said, I'm going to be in pain for a long time, probably forever. And you're going to have to be able to be okay with seeing me in pain. Because if I don't cry, if I don't let it out, if I don't process in whatever way I process, I'm going to implode. And he got that. And he understood that. And to have a partner who is that accepting and that understanding, to this day, you know, we kind of live life by my rules. And he's okay with that. So that's, and just my friends, I have a wonderful group of friends. I have wonderful family. And, you know, at first it was, you know, they would drop off dinner and then a friend, you know, things like a friend would say to me, okay, Shana, what time do you want me to come over this week so we can go for a walk? And it kind of wasn't even an option. And I didn't even have to ask. I just had to say, you know, this night is good.
When you're in a situation where you're drowning, and I think this is really quite powerful, drowning from the emotion, drowning from the experience, to be able to grab onto a life saver, whatever that is. First of all, you know, looking in the mirror and saying, you're the one who's going to save you, which is what you did. And then how becomes the question you ask. And then what comes after that?
I mean, you talked about, you know, doing it alone. And I know people who don't have that, you know, live in support. And it's a very different story. it wasn't just me and my friends. I had been in therapy on and off. I had a therapist who I adored. And I called her up and I told her what happened the next day.
Yeah.
And, so I went back into therapy to talk individually. And the other huge thing for me was, as much as everyone wanted to be there for me and was there for me, suicide is different. And suicide of a child and a teenage child and an only child, it's just plain different.
Yeah.
I'm not negating anyone else's grief or trauma or life experience, but it's different, because if you have, let's take a 15-year-old only child. You have a child who dies in a car accident. Maybe you blame the other driver.
Yeah.
Maybe you blame the roads because it was slippery. If you have a child who is, killed by someone else, you blame that person. If you have a child who takes their life, you blame yourself. And it took me months and months to get to the point where I didn't blame myself. We all, and by meaning we all, I'm now what's called a suicide survivor or survivor of suicide loss. We all shoulda, coulda, woulda ourselves. And I've learned that there is a difference between blaming myself and regretting something. I regret certain things, but I know that those things did not cause his death. So you look for a why and there never is a why, and you look for blame and there really isn't blame. And that's really hard to reconcile. So one of the most important things was finding people who understood that. And I was, the detective who came to the hospital that night told me about a group in Broward County called the Lost Team, Local Outreach to Suicide Survivors. And
that's a great resource, though. Make sure I want to shine a light on that, because that's a great resource for someone who is going through this right now. The Lost Team, and there's Broward and Miami-Dade as well, correct?
There isn't one in Miami-Dade. I know that the Lost Team in Broward does outreach to, I believe, Dade and Palm Beach counties.
Okay.
We'll give my information at the end.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But if anyone is anywhere and they want to find a resource, AFSP, American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, has resources for survivors of suicide loss. People can also reach out to me, and I can reach out and find resources in their area. I'm a member of I participate in a support group virtually out of New York for parents of suicide survivors who are parents. So I've attended support groups, and that's primarily what the Lost Team does. They come out to your house or they meet you and then provide support, and it's all peer support. No one's a mental health professional. It's all people who have lost someone to suicide, whether it's a parent, a child, a spouse, and we meet between a regular all-encompassing support group and a parent support group.
Yeah.
I probably attend 6 to 8 support groups a month.
Wow, amazing.
And have since 2 weeks after Adam's death. And that has been pivotal, because anytime I go to a meeting, whether it's online or in person, and I'm thinking, this is a thought no one else is going to have. I don't know if I should share it or not. Clearly, I'm a very open person, so I tend to share. And that's also helped me get to where I am, is that I do share, and I am very open and very vulnerable. But no matter what I say, someone says, I felt that way. I feel that way right now. I know what you're going through. And it's not an empty, I know what you're going through. It's a real, I have been there, and there is another side to come out of. You know, you again, you don't get past it. You don't necessarily get through it. As one of the members of the support group says, grief becomes your friend. It's not necessarily a bad thing. And I've said this to you before, Meg.
Yeah.
Grief is love.
Mm.
And I will never stop grieving Adam because my love for him is endless. And that's why no one gets over anything like this.
Yeah.
Because expecting someone to get over a loss like this is expecting them to end their love for a person. And that just doesn't happen.
That's absolutely beautiful. And I think that, you know, when we're talking about the how you get through, it's interesting because I was asked this week in my master's program, what are 2 things that will help you live a healthier life? And for me, the how is my relationships, the people that I surround myself with that hold me up, prop me up sometimes when I feel like I can't even, right? And then also the other side of it is that, you know, just are a witness to my life. And I think that the whole notion that I am here, you are here, and that Adam was here is a
He's
beautiful.
here. He's still here.
Well, absolutely. He's here.
Because I was doing a virtual meeting with someone else, actually a medium, and the camera went off and shut off, and she's like, "That's never happened to me before."
Yeah, he's here.
So that's absolutely him.
So I correct myself. Adam is here.
We were talking about you know, the 4 things I do. And I just want to make sure I get in the 4th because it's friends, therapy, my support group, and of course the 4th is Sadie. Sadie's more than my pet. She is now my service dog. We adopted her. Ed and I adopted her in February from the Humane Society, and I've since gotten her trained, and she is now my service dog. So she goes everywhere with me, and she helps me go places because there are times I don't want to leave the house. There are times I don't want to go to the store, you know, but we've been out of milk for 4 days, you know, and I don't want to do things, or I don't want to go out to a restaurant, but Sadie comes everywhere with me. And that's my 4th way of
So maybe if Sadie can hear us, she'll show up on the camera once again because I love Sadie.
Laying down and looks very happy doing so. So I'm not sure about that.
She'll come when she wants to. Everybody, you know, yes, she's not in service right now. She's resting. Adam's your spirituality, but so is Sadie. So is Sadie. But and also the wonderful, you know, embrace of an animal when you just don't want to talk to anybody is such a gift, such a gift. The other thing I definitely love because of my show, I always look for inspirations for myself, and I ask my guests all the time to give me some. And the first quote we have here is, "This year I was tested more than ever. I lost a lot, but also won. I failed. I cried. I laughed. I learned. I loved. But most of all, I'm still here. I did not break." That's Stephanie Bennett Henry. What a beautiful, incredibly profound quote. So go for it. Tell us what this means to you.
So probably a couple months after Adam died, I looked at Ed and I said, "Look, I've been thinking about this, and I kind of have 3 choices in life. I can do what Adam did, but that wasn't an option for me. I can be sad and be down and live in that, or I can try to be happy. And the most important word in that is try. Because to say I would be happy was too much pressure. It still is.
Yeah.
You know, I'm happy right now. I'm enjoying this podcast. I don't know if in 10 minutes I'll break down and cry, or I won't want to get out of bed for 3 days, or usually it's 1. You know, but I made a conscious effort and a conscious decision to try to be happy. And a lot of people said to me, "Well, that's what Adam would have wanted." And to say I bristled at that comment, that's an understatement. I would literally look at people and say, "Well, you know what? Adam lost his vote."
Yeah.
Adam doesn't get a say in how I feel. And it was almost pressure on me to say, well, that's what Adam would have wanted.
Yeah.
Because if, you know, Adam didn't do this to me. You know, he did this because as a 15-year-old boy, he didn't know how to live in whatever pain he was in. It's not that he wanted to die. He just didn't know how to live.
Wow.
And me, and just the way I am, I push forward.
Yeah.
And, you know, sometimes it's hard to laugh. Sometimes it's hard to smile. You know, when Ed and I got engaged, which was like 3 days ago, I didn't know how I'd process it.
Yeah.
I didn't know if I'd want to spend the day on the phone calling people and telling people, or if I would just let people figure it out along the way. And you know, it wasn't a predetermined how was I going to be.
Yeah.
What I was going to do. You know, I'm still here. I didn't break. I feel broken. I am broken, but I keep going. You know, my therapist said to me in the very beginning, it's not exactly the same, you know, but someone who loses a limb, they'll never be the same, but they'll learn to live and do what they need to do, even without that limb.
Yeah. That is incredibly powerful what you just said. And I think that you do it with the pain. And I love this because it's definitely something that follows. Just because I carry it all so well doesn't mean it's not heavy. And it's this beautiful little happy turtle. And it shows a broken heart breaks, pain with an arrow, past is a Band-Aid. And I love that you picked this because, you know, a lot of us show up in the world with a smile. And, you know, I always say be kind because you never know what someone else is going through. Use words that lift because you never know what kind of impact you'll have. It was making me cry seeing this because the reality is that it means that, yeah, it's still heavy, but we still do our best to try to keep doing our best. So tell me about this for you.
So a lot of, people know the commercial of the depression medication. I don't remember which medication, but where, you know, the person walks around with a smiley face on a stick and holds it in front of them. And they, you know, you put on a smiley face and you put on your best face, whether it's that or, you know, you put your best foot forward on social media and your life is vacations and exotic dinners and, you know, amazing sunsets and, you know, whatever. That's not anybody's life. You never know what someone's true life is. Maybe you can get a glimpse if you ask someone how they really are.
Yeah.
Not just a passing, hey, how you doing? How are you really doing? How are you doing with everything today? That can make such a difference because, you know, I outwardly, I seem like I'm okay, but that's only because there are times that I'm not. And, you know, something else that I've learned, which is a saying in the mental health community is it's okay not to be okay.
Yeah.
And I'm not always okay.
Yeah.
And that's just fine. And if I was okay all the time, that's when you start worrying.
Yeah. I, you know, it's so true because, you know, when people go out of their way to hide their vulnerability to a point where they literally crack under the pressure, right? It's so heavy. That's where those wonderful tools that you pointed out at the outset make a difference. And then we have
go back to the last book for a second.
Yes.
There's another dad from the support groups. His name is Michael, and he has a lot of great sayings. And he says, you know, it's like the grief that we're carrying a huge rock on our back.
Oh, wow.
And it's not that the rock gets smaller over time, it's that our backs get stronger.
Oh, that's so powerful. Wow. It's true.
So that reminds me of that quote also.
Wow. That's really powerful. Yeah, it's true. We just don't really know how strong we are, you know, and the thing is we won't know if we don't continue and move on. But the bottom line is it still doesn't mean it's not heavy. And I love that you pointed that out as well.
Right. And it's not that I've decided to be so strong. I really wasn't given a choice.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. The definition of strong becomes very, very fluid over time. Sometimes I think just getting out of bed, putting my shoes on.
I was just going to say, sometimes it's taking a breath is
Yeah.
strength.
It's
You
so
know?
relative, right? I mean, literally, what it's so funny because I often say a lot of times, keep your expectations low and your acceptance high. And it's so interesting because, this go with the flow kind of thing. I mean, sometimes the flow is ugly. It's like the crawl. It's like drag myself along because, it's just the way it is. But I love this last quote where the only thing I need to do was to lean into everything, to not close my heart, and to unconditionally feel whatever I felt, including the pain, especially the pain. Benjamin Allen.
That, I've almost, that's pretty much everything I say. And, when I said to Ed that night, you have to learn to live with my pain because I can't live without it.
Yeah.
And I never understood the term leaning into something until this happened.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand it right away. I just did what I felt. And I still only do what I feel I need to do at any given moment.
Yeah.
Whether it's, go to the store, not go to the store. Okay, here's Sadie.
Here she is. All right. I told you she'd show up when she wanted to. So Sadie is now sharing her bone.
She wants to play.
I love
that. So yeah, I lean into it, and I lean into the pain. I lean into the pain. I accept it. As Bethel says in our support groups, I make it my friend. I let it sit next to me, and I work with it because that's what I have.
In my show, my show is based upon the Magical Guide to Bliss, and as we set our intentions for each conversation, I always say that the gift could be just opening the book and hearing something, an insight from there that'll meet that intention. So today, what was your intention for today? And then you can tell us what number you picked in the book.
My intention pretty much for every day is just to be true to myself and to be unapologetically me.
Yeah.
You referred to earlier to something that I've said to you in another situation. Yeah. And that's, I quote the song, I believe it's by Jody Messina, My Give a Damn's Busted.
Yes.
I'm unapologetically me. I live life by my rules, on my time, in my way, and that's my intention. I know that I need to, live by others' rules too, but I am true to myself in what I need for my mental health.
Yeah, I think that's really important because you honor your boundaries, really, in that. So what page did you pick, and then the Magical Guide?
Well, first I'll tell you why I picked the page.
Okay.
Well, I'll tell you at the same time. I picked 15 because Adam was 15 when he died, and he died on the 15th.
Wow.
So I picked 15.
Wow. So what does 15 say to us today?
15. Oh, the magical key to bliss.
Well, you could read what is the insight on the top first?
Okay, the insight. First of all, it's January 13th. Commit positively to the I am.
Oh, I love that.
Remember, the thoughts that you think and the statements you make regarding yourself determine your mental attitude or attitude.
Yeah.
If you have a worthwhile objective,
that's great.
Find one reason why you can achieve it rather than hundreds of reasons why you can't.
Wow. Wow. Okay, Adamtude, we hear you. We hear you. With the Adamtude, we go on because I think it's really important to recognize at this point in the interview that you have done so much on your, conducting a life examination and then actually showing up in your life to the things that speak to you. And I know that we've talked about this in the past, but I'd love for you to share with everyone why you're doing what you're doing now. And I put up here your speaker sheet that basically shows that you do speak right now. You're a keynote speaker now, and you speak to this. Speak on Suicide is your company, but at the same time, your message is clear. Together, we're not alone. So go ahead, speak to that as well.
So somewhere around May or June, I decided that I wanted to start speaking about Adam and his life and his death and my journey through grief or in grief. And it kind of came about just little bit by bit, piece by piece. And I started Speak on Suicide. So it's speakonsuicide.com.
Mm-hmm.
And with the saying, it's okay to SOS, which can be either speak on suicide or SOS, just ask for help, because that's what I've learned to do, is ask for help.
Mm-hmm.
So I will speak and tell my story to anyone who will listen.
Yeah.
Another quote that I didn't send you is, I gave Adam's eulogy, and we loved the show Hamilton, and he knew every word to every song, and I knew a lot of them. And we used to talk about the last song, which is titled Who Lives, Who Dies, Who Tells Your Story.
Mm-hmm.
So I promised Adam at his memorial service that his story would not end and that I would continue to tell his story. Never did I think I would actually literally tell his story, because he wouldn't like me talking about him and his personal struggles in his life. But at the same time, it's like the devil on one shoulder, the angel on the other. On one ear, I can hear him being, "Mom." And on the other shoulder, I can feel him putting his hands on my shoulders, looking me in the eye and saying, "Mom, you got this." Suicide, SpeakonSuicide.com, all one word.
Okay.
And the email is info@speakonsuicide. So anyone can reach me there, and when they reach someone, it's me. It's all me. And I also have become certified in doing what's called QPR training, which is, it like CPR teaches someone, if someone's having a heart attack, to do that life-saving moment until they can, real help can come. QPR is question, persuade, and refer, where I would teach how to recognize the signs and risk factors of suicide when someone may be contemplating suicide, how to actually ask that question, and then what to do from there.
Yeah. This is a beautiful message, because together we are better. And you say that a lot, but it's true. I don't want to walk this earth alone. We are here with so many others, and if someone is struggling, you turn and shine a light on that person in the most loving of ways, to say it's okay not to be okay is what you're doing. And it's beautiful, Shana.
Thank you. And feeling or realizing that you're not alone, I think, is the first step to finding hope.
Yeah, that's beautiful. What's your final inspiration today?
My final inspiration, I guess, is a call to action for people. If you're listening, ask someone how they're really doing. Really just reach out to someone. Maybe it's a college roommate you haven't seen in a long time. Maybe it's your kid.
Yeah.
Maybe it's your sibling. Maybe it's your significant other. Maybe it's a coworker. But, try and be that person who makes someone feel like they're not alone.
That's beautiful.
And if you feel like you're alone, maybe reach out to someone who you think can be there for you.
How are you really? How are you really? I'm here. So, Shana, this is the end of our wonderful interview today. Season 7 of Live, Laugh, Love, and Play. I know that might seem like it's at odds to the conversation we have, but at the same time, really it's not, because what you did say so well and so eloquently was that Adam did not know how to live with his pain. And I think the biggest gift that you're giving so many people is that it's possible. And it's not only possible, but when you try, you ask for help, others will show up to help you in that space. And I want to thank you so much for sharing your message, to conduct a life examination with me today, and literally be the change you want to see in the world, because at the same time, that's what you're doing. You don't want to see this happen to anyone else. And also, you are available and you're present for those who are walking that same journey with you. So, absolutely. Final word goes to you, my beautiful friend.
I just want to say thank you. This has been inspirational for me. And I appreciate, you giving me the platform and the love and support and showing up for me as a friend. And you do ask me, how am I doing, really?
Yeah.
And that's wonderful. So this has been amazing. And if people want to reach me for whatever reason,
Yes.
maybe they've never told anyone else something that they're carrying that's a burden.
Yeah.
I'll listen, and I'll find someone else to help you, because I can't shoulder it all myself.
Yeah.
But certainly
I think that she would be an incredible resource for anyone who wants to share her with any audience that would possibly need to have this wonderful healing light in their presence as well. So with that, Shana, thank you so much for joining me here today. Thank you everyone who joined us as well. Thank you so much again. As I always say at the end of these wonderful conversations, thank you for sharing your extraordinariness with us. Time to manifest, living fully, loving intently, and laughing more. Certainly being an open vessel to whatever love comes your way. And if that means finding ways to play, certainly do that as well. Get ready to dazzle. I really believe in all of you. I thank you for your light in my world. And I love you. I love you, Shana. Have a great day, everybody. Bye.